California's Inland Talk Express is KCAA.
Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turfs Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in this great world. Hope everybody's having a great time, and thank you very much for tuning into the Water Zone show. We appreciate that very much. I'm Rob Starr, along with Mr. Tara Malali, and we also have to always include her because she's a good part of the show, Miss Chris Austin from Maven's Notebook. So welcome, Chris, and welcome, Tara.
Hello, everyone. So super excited to be here today. I'm really I'm interested in the whole state water officials dealing, kind of addressing a lot of the environmental concerns that we all knew were going to be a thing. And then there were days and days of testimony and what does that look like for us? And Chris, can you give us a little insight? I didn't want to talk about the voluntary agreement. Does anyone right now? I feel why you just picked the one thing? That's why I was going. Oh, I had much fun. It's just tough. I mean, it's such a very controversial process to begin with. And it's highly technical, the delta for our listeners who, in California water, we argue a lot about the delta. And that's this area where two largest rivers, the Sacramento from the north and the San Joaquin from the south, flow into this place called the delta, and they join together and they flow out to sea. And the delta is also an area where we have a lot of farming going on. They drained a lot of the marshes to create these little islands to flood on. Well, we call them islands, but they're more, I guess, like polders, I guess is the word like the Dutch use because they're so subsided. And so we argue all the time about the delta, and the delta, it just isn't doing very well, and it hasn't been for a long time. And I think that's one thing that we all agree on, is that it's not doing well and the status quo isn't working. But when it comes to deciding what to do about that, that's where it gets really hard. And
it's more simple to change the politicians than it is to change the problem.
Well, if only it were that easy, I mean, the people that there are those that say the state water board shouldn't be appointed; it should be elected. But the problem is that the work that the state water board does is highly technical, and those people are chosen because, one is an engineer. They all have a different slot. It's all mandated. There are 5 of them. There's one is slot for the public person, and then, the different slots to fill in to get the kind of expertise you need that you're never going to get if you're just electing people, So it's just a really tough thing because you have the delta, you have all these channels running around, you have fish, you have birds and cars and boats and fishermen, and everything's kind of there in the middle here in this place we call the delta. And so the voluntary agreements they're trying to come to some sort of agreement to do a better job of getting more flow into the delta, or that's what at least what the attempt is to do. But the hard part is, kind of like everywhere, when the water is scarce, nobody wants to give it up. No constituent wants to have to do with less, which is the same problem we have going on in the Colorado River writ large. So, there was they had a long set of hearings, and, it's just very detailed. So The reporter Alistair Bland wrote an article that's headlining on Maven's Notebook today that really dives into these issues of habitat and flows, and we really get down in the weeds because that's what we do on Maven's Notebook. We really like to dig into all those details, so I would suggest that you go and read it. It's really a very tough thing. Which then I'm going to pivot over to, this other really tough thing, which is the Colorado River. Oh, my word. If you like watching water policy, then this is like the frickin' Super Bowl of water policy in slow-mo. Super Bowl, if the Super Bowl were played over 2 years, this is what the Colorado River situation is. So we're going down to the wire, the theoretical wire, which is February 14th, which is when at 5 p.m. Eastern time, that the 7 states that all draw water from the Colorado River have to come up with a solution. And it's really, this is really, really hard. And it's really hard because the cuts are going to be very painful and life-changing to whoever, gets the cuts. So trying to determine, who that's going to be has been very hard. I would have to say, the basin is divided into the upper basin and the lower basin. The lower basin is California, Arizona, Nevada. No, we're three. California, Arizona, and Nevada. The upper basin is 4: Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Wyoming's even in the mix. Okay, so when they divided up the Colorado River, they actually gave actual amounts to these 2 basins, and so the lower basin has used up all of its allocation and more, and the upper basin never completely used their allocation. So now when it's time to make some cuts, the upper basin is pretty much saying, we don't think we should have to cut our water use, and the lower basin is, really pushing for that to happen. And apparently, California, the lower basin, says, well, we can do 1.5 million acre feet, 1.5 million acre feet in conservation. We can do that. So what's the upper basin going to do? And the upper basin is kind of saying nothing is what we're going to do. And when the Bureau of Reclamation released its environmental impact statement, which is how it analyzes these different alternatives for managing the river, they didn't really analyze the lower basin's submission of their alternative. And it really appears, if you look at things, or the perception is that Reclamation is really saying that the lower basin is going to bear the brunt of this. And when you turn to the lower basin, there's no state more at risk than Arizona for getting a massive amount of cuts. And also California should be in there. But, when we talk about California on the Colorado River, I think everyone thinks, Southern California. And yes, it is Southern California somewhat, but mostly it's the Imperial Valley. And so if you're, somewhere on the East Coast, you're enjoying a salad today, well, that salad probably, those lettuce probably came from the Imperial Valley. Or in Yuma, Arizona, you get cantaloupes 6 weeks ahead of the rest of the country when they grow them in the Imperial Valley. It's been, a agricultural powerhouse that, really feeds the nation, especially in the wintertime. So, it's you just can't say cut the farmers, and you just can't say cut Arizona, but someone's going to have to cut something, and whatever it is, it's going to be hard. And all this now is happening as we're having this what they call snow drought, which means that, we have very little snow in the mountains. We have very little snow in the Sierra Nevada, and not looking any better, and maybe you could even say worse in the Colorado River Basin. So even these cuts that they are planning for are not likely to be steep enough. And all this is going to come to a head like in summertime because those reservoirs are getting lower and lower. So, what's going to happen? Arizona legislature set aside some money for litigation, but litigation doesn't get you more water.
No.
It's like, so I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be bad. It's going to be serious. It's going to be painful for for a lot of people, and I would say probably everyone in the lower basin is going to get hit with something. So that's my prediction. Of course, I can't tell you how they're going to distribute it. I have no idea, but this is it's just a really tough situation. I just can't imagine having to be a decision maker, and try to do this. I think it's why, Trump hasn't jumped in. There's no easy answer to any of this. And actually, in a way, they've sort of taken the back seat. They haven't even put up a commissioner for the Bureau of Reclamation. I mean, it could possibly, some could say that it would help if they had someone at the helm, that was running this. Although someone is at the helm, obviously running it, but they're just interim. So
interesting subject. Go ahead, Tara. Sorry.
I was just going to say, with the Colorado River, there's so many needs that it's not even space for wants. And nobody's wanting things. It's that everything is a real need, and that's what makes this so terribly difficult. It's not like, if only we could just, put in more lawns. It's not a more lawns question. It's a food versus population versus, kind of destroying certain riverbeds and watersheds. It's just really an unfortunate place. Yeah, it's all the things all together, and we haven't done the work to figure out how to adapt to this fast enough or soon enough, and so now it's just going to come to cutting. I don't see another way out. I don't think that we're going to I don't think Arizona is going to suddenly go, here's how we're going to figure out how to be more water resilient in the short term and stop growing alfalfa. Like that time has come and gone. Now it's just like, what are those poor alfalfa farmers going to do with their livelihoods? I mean, that's a huge issue in Arizona, especially with the groundwater restriction. Like there being no real groundwater management ideas that have been in place for generations. Like in California, we've done a lot to, with Sigma, which has had its own set of issues. So nothing's perfect, but at the same time, it's like it's almost like we're just going to have to now deal with the fact that we didn't do this, and that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Question. Well, I was just going to say, Tara, I always ask this question. So does Chris. So if you were the czar of water for California, no, seriously, what do you think needs to happen? I know, putting everybody together and getting it done, but what do you see to drive this thing more forward?
I think everyone needs to come to the table and figure out what they can do to get to the bone, to get to there's no more meat left. So the idea that some states are going to try and keep the meat on the bone is just not, I don't think that's feasible or viable. And I think there are some states still trying, this is our, we have this, it's our thing, it's our resource or whatever. There's still some of that territorialism in place. And I think everyone just needs to come to the table and go, this is our bone. We're showing you the bone of what we need to get it done, to survive. We're at the survival mode, not at the idealized, optimized mode anymore. And I think the more we wake up to that, the faster we can get to consensus, and the faster we can move forward and make make major changes about how we use and manage water in states that maybe haven't needed to do that kind of deep introspection yet.
Who would you recommend to head up all of this and be the decision maker, the power broker? Because they're going to need somebody to do that.
I have no idea. I think that consensus, I think the truth is they're not going to reach any consensus. I don't think they can. I mean, they've been trying to do this, struggling for 2 years to come to consensus, so I don't think consensus is there. I remember I had a friend who sat on the Delta Stewardship Council, and he was the mayor of Sacramento and assemblyman. He had a lot of legislative experience, and he told me the story about how he was negotiating with LADWP over the Mono Lake issue way back when, and trying to get more water for the lake. And the guy at the DWP said, look, I can't give you the water. You need to take it from me. And I think that's what we have going on there. That is too, politically fraught for anybody to, agree to take less water. They're going to get hammered at home. I think, they feel they're going to get, their constituents are going to get very angry. So I think what has to happen here is that the feds are going to have to step in, and they're going to have to figure it out and say, here it is, this is what it is. Because if they could have reached consensus, they would have. And if they can, they have theoretically until, Saturday at 5 p.m. And I am thinking, now, the feds have also taken that deadline and moved it again, and they may move it yet again, but at some point in October 2026, all the agreements that they have run out, and they have to do environmental analysis and then make a record of decision. So time is running out. They may move it yet again, we'll see, but yeah.
Exactly.
So that's my prediction.
I usually
You heard it first, folks.
Well, I'll go make my bet on that because I know she's always accurate about it. So what are the other big stories? And I know where salmon is looking to go bye-bye, and the Indian tribes are not going to be happy.
Yeah, that's that Bay Delta plan that we were talking about earlier. But
yeah.
I'm more interested in the golden mussels situation. I know that we've been talking about that now. I feel like for weeks.
You got a recipe now?
Yeah, no. Stop trying to make mussel soup happen. I'm just gonna muscle my way into this conversation.
Okay. I like that. It's a slimy way, though.
It's very slimy, super gross. So I feel like we all feel this very urgent call to deal with the golden mussels. We just still don't know what to do. It feels like the same. I mean, it's like same, but different topic. And I worry about where we're headed because there's so many. There's so many things on so many different fronts. I mean, Chris, how would you prioritize golden mussel, Bay Delta, Colorado River? How would you put what order would you put those in? I'm gonna just have fun today. I'm spicy today, so that's where we're at.
Well,
Spicy
I always
mussel.
specialize in the Delta, so it's always the Delta on top. And interestingly, the Colorado River is not huge on Maven's Notebook. I mean, it's there. I write about it. I cover it. But and I don't think there's a lot of crossover between the Delta and the Colorado River in a lot of they're kind of like two whole separate systems, And then you lop on the good old golden mussels that, they are trying. They have pilot programs going on. They're trying to figure out what is the best way to do it. But, these buggers, they're hardy little guys. They're, have a lot of tolerance for chemicals and water temperatures, and they can attach to anything, and they just very prolific. So just a bad thing. And, it just goes back to just, we need people that that are recreational boaters and recreational watercraft to really be following the rules, because the hard part about invasive species is it's not an if as much as it's a when, and recreational boaters can really be instrumental in stopping it from spreading inland into other lakes and stuff.
So with the two systems, I'm like, try telling that to Metropolitan that they're two systems. They're like, no, it's our system. It's like,
well,
no,
I remember a few years ago there was a big, push to kind of see that, it's like a big supersized watershed from, really the Bay Delta and the Colorado River are, part of this. They're all one thing, which is true. They are connected in this way that we've created, but the rules in the Delta and the rules on the Colorado River, it's just a whole different ballgame. And I cover Metropolitan's meetings on the Colorado River, and they have all kinds of acronyms for stuff I just don't know. I don't know on the Colorado River. They have a priority adjustment, a UIUs, an ICS, and they just flip these terms around. It's not straightforward at all. So it's, and most people, if they're twisted up about the Delta, they don't have time to figure out the Colorado River. But Southern California, yeah, they're in the unenviable position of having to straddle these two worlds, which are in essence one world, but, this whole different governance system, the state versus the feds. It's all a mess.
It is. I think about San Gorgonio Pass, where it's like, that's where the Colorado River and the extension branch from the Celtic Advance Project, or not, yeah. But the
California Aqueduct East.
Yes,
branch.
Thank you. I appreciate you for that. That's where they're so close. They almost touch, but they don't. But they almost touch right in that space. And so there's always this slight tension in that space of well, are we going to figure out how to connect in? Are we not? What makes sense? And with all of this Colorado River negotiations, plus the Bay Delta issues, plus the sites, I know there's a lot kind of brewing in that space, which is really interesting. But sorry, I'm going to let Rob ask a couple questions before we get to the half, because I feel like I've dominated today.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I just think there's going to be a lot of court injunctions coming down the track, because they're not going to, as Chris says, they're not all going to agree. Maybe we'll have a New Mexico, not New Mexico, but maybe a southwestern water master. Well, somebody has to have the drive to make that all happen, and somebody has to be tough, and they got to be realistic and fair about it, because like you said, it's going to affect a lot of people, a lot of businesses, economics. I mean, it's not a small task to do.
And water lawyers are going to make a bundle. I mean, it's
in the last 15, 20 years, they have been making lots of money.
Oh, and here comes some more, because there'll be lawsuits on the Colorado River, most likely, and most certainly lawsuits in the Delta. If there's a lawsuit to be filed, it will be filed. That's just California water. So, if you're out there and your kids are going to law school, tell them California water, lots of work.
Yeah,
lots of work.
God, that
and
will not be replaced by
interesting.
AI anytime soon.
No. Interesting stuff.
Yep. Anything else of importance? You have lots of stuff this week that you've reported on.
I just thought one of the wacky stories was that for some reason people have this idea that they want to make all the beaches in Los Angeles County a national park. And I was like, the headline, but it started off on Monday, they said the pristine beaches Okay. Well, have you been to the beach in LA County? I mean, I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure pristine is or they do a lot of work there to keep them clean as they can. But pristine, I'm just not sure. But yeah, I just think that's just so bizarre. Like we really need that. In
There's
Los
so many
Angeles.
other places that we have to focus on.
I know, and we're going to do that. It's like what's that going to do for us? But apparently they had a meeting, and some people thought, the people that showed up were quote unquote excited about it. So, okay, it just seems to me rather bizarre. But yeah, so that's my interesting story for the week. We'll see what happens.
Yep. I once asked Wade Crowfoot, who's the head of natural resources in California, about somebody in his organization or anywhere of all the things that he controls has wrote a top 10 list, like Toro was saying before. What's the priorities? Everything's a priority. Everything is important to everybody, but somebody's going to make the decision. What are the top 10 or 3 or 5 or whatever, and get those done and then move on to the next ones. But I think we need somebody really strong in that position, and having, reclamation just have a temporary person. I'm not saying he's bad, but got to get a move on. So anyway, we'll leave that for the next conversation we have. Chris, as always, thank you very much for joining us every single week. We appreciate it. And what I tell, as you know, all our listeners, please go to www.mavensnotebook.com, become a subscriber, get your copies every single morning like I do, and it's a great thing to read, and it keeps you very informed. You can also, if you have the desire, become a sponsor of that. You can send any amount in, and that way
be the going. 1 in 10. Be the 1 in 10.
Well, that's not. Well, I know that's her priority list. So. But no, you're absolutely right. But it's worth it because you get reporting on things that you hear about them, but you don't get the secrets behind the story, and that's what she does. So it's a great thing. And they also have a good section on reading books about water called The Water Shelf, and that's pretty interesting too. So anyway, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today, and we will you're off next week, but we will see you the week after that.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. We're going to take a little break for our commercials, and we'll be right back with our featured guest. So stick around. It's going to be a great conversation.
KCAA.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
Moving up in this industry means getting the most out of each day, so you can focus on growing your business. With Site One, you're in control, and we're here to help. It starts with the right team. Our irrigation pros can help map out a complete, streamlined system that meet any requirements or regulation. And from the first dig to years after install, knowledgeable experts are available in branch, or resources are available online to help find solutions specific to your needs. Next, we make sure you have the right tools to get the job done with the largest selection of top brands in the industry. bringing the latest in Wi-Fi enabled controllers, rotors, sprays, valves, and drip components. And because hard work should always be rewarded, you'll receive personalized pricing and earn loyalty points on qualifying purchases to help you grow. You're in control. Site One is here to help.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Rob Starr along with Ms. Tara Malali, and we're very happy to have you be part of our show as a listening audience. And we have some great guests today. They've been on before, but we always like to have an update from them. And they're with an organization called ResNet, which some of you may know of, which is Residential Energy Services Network. And we have Ms. Paulette McGee, who's the program manager, and a gentleman named Michael Mathis, who's a program engagement specialist. And we're happy to have them back on and talk more about what ResNet does. I had a great conversation with Paulette the other night and about things that I wanted to talk about, which we'll get to, and it was an interesting conversation. I want to expand that. So, just to start it off, because there probably is some new listeners to this show, and if you can just give a brief description of what is ResNet?
Well, thank you, Robert, for having us back. ResNet is a nonprofit, and it's solely based on energy efficiency and rating homes with what we call a HERS score or a HERS index, which is like a miles per gallon on a car, but it's for homes. And part of what ResNet does also is we do inspections for building codes, the energy portion of the building codes. So we perform duct leakage testing, air tightness testing, and then do visual inspections to make sure insulation is installed correctly, that the ductwork is installed correctly, that efficiencies of the windows are correct. Everything and anything that touches and affects the energy efficiency of the building.
And you're also involved a little with water.
Yes, we also have the HERS H2O program, which is the same concept. It's a water conservation measurement to achieve a 30% reduction of water usage in homes, and it's based on the inside of the home and the outside of the home. Okay.
And so I know there's a lot of people, a lot of organizations that do standards that put together, and you have yours, and I think they're very good. How do ResNet standards differ from other efficiency standards? Because there's so many, which I want to talk about in a little while.
Right. So,
yeah, Rob.
If you're going to talk,
sorry. Go ahead, Paula.
Go ahead, Michael.
All right. So, yeah, Rob. It's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. The HERS index is around energy efficiency, like Paulette was saying. There are a lot of different programs that are involved in energy efficiency, down to the regional and municipal level, all the way up to the federal level with an Energy Star for New Homes program. Within those, we have HERS raters. They are our partners in going out and doing the inspections. They also get certified with these other programs because sometimes there's a regional program that's set up that is specific to that region. And one of the things that the biggest take home for me is it's kind of like a rectangle or a square can be a rectangle can be a square, but a square can't be a rectangle. So what you're looking at is you can do a HERS rating on every home that's built, every residential home that's built. But these other programs, they come in and they've got other, some of them are a little more geared towards visitability and, ADA compliance where, you can age into that home. And then others are more geared towards it being an energy producing home, a net zero home that produces as much energy as it uses. But a HERS index, like I said, you can go into any home and do a HERS rating on that home, and it gives you that baseline. What I would like to see the end result for my position as programs engagement specialist is I want to see every home receive a HERS index score. That way we've got all of the data, when, we've got all of these other programs. And when we do our annual reports, a lot of these programs are the reason for that HERS rating rather than it just being a new home that triggers a HERS rating. So that third-party verification on every home that's built is going to give utilities more information. It's going to give municipalities carbon footprint and reduction goals information. So my end goal is to have every home HERS rated, including all of these other programs that push the envelope for those regional areas.
Okay. Tara?
So my first question. Oh, I need to. No. So you can hear me? Okay. Sorry, I had a technical issue, so I'm going to apologize for that right now. But apparently, I'm all good. So my first question is: did you implement the His and Hers program that we talked about last time? No, I'm just kidding. No home improvement system yet. I know it's in the works. But secondly, I'm wondering how easy. So I just purchased a brand new home, literally this week. I am in escrow right now. Very exciting for me. How can I do this in a way that's easy and makes sense for me to be able to increase and enhance my current kind of setup? Because it's a home from 1991, which means it's old, like me.
Well, the nice thing about the HERS index, you can ask for a rater to come in and evaluate the home that you are potentially wanting to buy. They would go in and they'd do the inspections, they'd do the different testing, and then they would give you areas in which you can improve on the energy efficiency of an older building, like adding additional attic, insulation, or upgrading your water heater to a more energy efficient water heater or your HVAC system, which would actually give you a better score. The other piece of that is that there are loans that are very specific to energy efficiency that you can apply for, and you get a better rate. They actually utilize your utility savings and put that back in your pocket so you qualify for more home. And anybody can ask for that. And what we would really like to see is a campaign directed to home buyers to let them know, hey, if you're going to buy a home, have it HERS rated. And if more, potential home buyers ask for that, more builders would do it. More real estate agents would have it done before it goes on the market. And we would pretty much accomplish getting more homes HERS rated.
So with that, first of all, is that all on your website, and where can I find the information? Not just not that I'm going to look in this moment in time, but I might look just right now because I clearly need it. Where would I find that information on your website?
Just go to resnet.us, and the website should come up. And it talks about energy efficient mortgages. It talks about HERS indexes and, ratings. It will give you raters in your area that you can contact to have them come out and do an inspection. Michael can answer some of this as well.
Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. As you go to the website, the resnet.us, there's right above the top, there's a banner that reads Learn About HERS. And that actually is it's a little more homeowner friendly.
Oh, this is super helpful. Okay, I just went there. It's great.
Yeah. Where it's gonna walk you through as the homeowner. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, and I'm broadcasting this, all throughout the radio waves here. I'm the programs engagement specialist. I'm also the liaison between the HERS raters, providers, and ResNet. So if anybody is on this website, they can find my email address. They can email me. We're getting our rater, our HERS rater identification up and running right now. So until that's up and running, feel free to send me an email and tell me what state you're in. I can look up and see. I mean, actually, state and city would be very helpful depending on the size of the state. But I could reach out and find some HERS raters who would be willing to go and do that. Some of the HERS raters are strictly new construction because they are, they're trained on that new code and they want to do the new houses only. But there are a lot now that are coming into the fold that are doing the existing homes as that market increases.
How does the ResNet standards differ from other energy efficient standards?
How is it different?
Yeah. And this was a conversation, sort of what we had the other day, Paulette, that maybe we can get into this right now. There's lots of standards going on. And it's always at the front end of things, like we talked about with water, with Sigma, and some of the other things. So one says, okay, if you're going to put in an irrigation system in a new house, these are the standards you got to use, and tells you, your spray body's got to be 18 inches away from the hardscape, and blah, 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 blah. And so the house gets approved, and you can move in and all that. But my thing is, what happens, people and builders stuck to those specifications. Now it's 3, 4, 5 years later or more down the road, and the owner of the home wants to sell. But he hasn't really kept up with making sure the system is adequate like it was when it was first installed. There's no regulation that says it has to maintain and stay that way for somebody else to buy the house. So it's almost like there's a law that says you can't rob banks, can't do robbery or burglary. So does that mean if you're thinking about doing it, the first thing you think about, this is the bank I'm going to go rob, but I'm not going to do it because that's my first one. I'm going to do the second one that I think of, because there's no punishment for it. There's no enforcement for those things. And how do you guys feel about that stuff? Because as I've always mentioned, you've got a National Association of Homeowners have their own specs. You've got leads, and there's others down the road. Why do we have all of these different standards instead of having one standard? And then have the enforcement. It's like water. They had some places had what we call the water police. They go out, they drive around, they see the water going off at a time you're not supposed to be watering, or it's going on for more than it should, or the wrong day. They really don't enforce that a lot. There's been instances I've seen homeowners contact us and say, what do? We got hit for this thing. They're going to fine us $23,000, blah, 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 blah. And, they said they're sorry. They had a broken pipe. I said, there's ways you go back and address that with the water agency. But after that, there's sometimes no forgiveness for breaking the regulation. And there's also there's not a lot of enforcement about it. So why in general do all these people like Leeds and that come up with regulations, but then you don't have to be responsible after the first time? The system
because they want to stay elected.
Good point. That's what we talked about the other day. But that's absolutely true. And I feel bad for it because people work hard to put these things together, and they make sense, but it doesn't give a lifetime, or even a month or a year afterwards. I mean, from sprinklers that have subsidence in the ground and they go below grade, that happens pretty much in most homes. But nobody goes back and checks those things. Nobody's responsible for it. If the homeowner wants to fix it, they fix it. If they don't, they don't. Their landscaper knows about it or is smart enough to know that that's a problem and tell them. If not, he doesn't. And it just seems like there's a lot of committees, a lot of time, a lot of money spent on putting all these things together, but they don't last or they're not enforced. So why people do that? Why do we have that? Just my thought.
Right.
Big question.
Well, so if you're talking about a green program, they're very specific. So like LEED and NAHV Green, those are their own programs. And they cover more than just energy efficiency or water conservation. They also do indoor air quality, resource conservation, and livable communities. But they utilize the ResNet HERS Index as a method to confirm energy efficiency targets for their programs.
Right.
And it could be a gold, silver, or platinum, right? So now if that home sells 5-10 years down the line, they can go in, and it was HERS rated, and it was a LEED. It'll be in the ResNet directory. So whoever wanted to have that home recertified to see what the actual score is, they could go in and see what the original score was and all the energy features on the website. Then they can have a HERS rater come out and confirm that A, those features are still there, or B, they made changes that either they put in something less energy efficient or less water, conservative, and then give it a new score. And then that new score can be utilized for a home improvement loan to do more energy efficient upgrades to bring that score down towards net zero. So that's kind of how we view it in a nutshell.
I think that's good. I always look at it like I'm looking for another house, a larger house. And naturally, I'm going to have an inspection of the house before I officially buy it. And sometimes it'll come back. Most times it comes back, there's some problems. There's always some small little problems. And then sometimes there's some big problems. And so that's the report you get. And then you say, okay, to the person selling the house, okay, these are the things that I think are critical. What are you going to do about them? They can either say, oh, I'll take care of this, don't worry, or I'm not going to do anything about it. You want the house? This is the fee, this is the cost of it. You pay it, and so that's your issue after that. So what do? If you really want the house, I guess you have to do it and fix it up and do what you have to do and sign the contract that there's a problem, but you're excluding it and you're taking responsibility for that. But again, that's kind of like a non-enforcement kind of thing.
Well, and I think that's why those loans exist, right? So that we can do that, do that work. Yeah. And then, so how would I apply for one of those loans?
So, are you going through a loan broker? Because
if I'm going with my broker and I've got the price of the house, and then I get it HERS rated, and they're like, well, your insulation in your attic is laughable. It's mostly just like squirrel, infestation space. It's a home for someone else. And so you've got to do this free rent. And so, you've got to fix the insulation. You've got, your HVAC unit's 120 years old, so it's really just spitting out dust. And that's when it turns on. And then your water heater is also ancient and, only goes hot. Of course it only goes hot. Anyway, what's the scenario that looks like?
So a HERS rater would come out and they would evaluate your home, but then they would also give you a list of things that you can do to make your home more energy efficient. And then you can price those out, and then getting your energy efficient mortgage would actually cover those costs. And they would wrap it around and you would have your loan. So if you're buying an older home, then you can upgrade most of it, at the time that you're purchasing through an energy efficient mortgage. And you can also make it a HERS H2O home and update your, plumbing and toilets and fixtures and irrigation on the outside to achieve a HERS H2O score of 30. So, which would keep your water bills down, the energy efficient mortgage, and doing the energy features would keep your utility bills lower. So it's really a win-win if you're going to do an existing home to have a HERS rater involved.
I know the city of
bringing that HERS rater in at.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, bringing your HERS rater in at that time when you're getting it inspected, when you don't have a bunch of furniture and you don't have the dogs barking, and if it's kind of at that inspection time where they can come in, they can see everything pretty clearly without having to move furniture and dive behind boxes that are in the attic. that'll be an ideal time for them to get in there. And like Paulette said, they're gonna catalog everything you've got, put that together for you, and they'll probably, because they are probably local, they're probably going to be able to point you in the direction of any utility rebates that you'd also be able to utilize to, get some rebates through the utility or through, your municipality to help you defray some of those costs as well.
I had a friend in Anaheim Hills, California, and the house was around 25 to 30 years old. I'm not sure how old it was, but he had an air conditioning problem, HVAC problem. And they came out and said, the service people said, hey, these need to be replaced. And in California, because of the SEER ratings, which is more stricter there than it is here in Arizona, it costs more for the system. But there was a program offered by Anaheim Utilities, I think it was from them, that they'll give you a loan to buy the air conditioning system, and they tack it on. You already have a mortgage, but they tack it on to your bill every single month, and when it's paid off in full, then it's paid off in full, which I thought was pretty nice. And he got a brand new system, and that was good. So I think those things that they're doing with the mortgage that you guys are working with, I think that's an awesome thing to do. What are the minimum rated features that must be considered during a home energy rating? Is there something special people should know about, or?
Yes, there are energy measures. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, with new construction, with new construction, you're looking at a lot of. You're able to see it pre-sheetrock, right? There's no sheetrock up, so you can see the insulation, you can see that amount of air sealing that's been done. And again, so I just want to be clear: a HERS rating can be on a code-built home. I'm in North Carolina. Our energy code is equivalent to a 2009 energy code. I'm going to pause and let that sink in, but not too long. 2009 energy code. So when I go out into a home, it doesn't have to have a whole lot of air sealing. It has, it's got minimal insulation compared to some of the other places around the country. I am well trained and well versed in that code here, but I would also, if I were in another state, I would know that code there. So an energy, a HERS score, that HERS index is based on what's installed. So that's the as-built. As long as it meets code, and we're checking on it. So that's, you use the exact right terminology there, the minimum rated feature. As long as I go in and the insulation that's installed meets that amount of, the U value and the R value, depending on windows, doors, the materials you're looking at, as long as your SEERs are right to meet code, you can go in and mark those things down. If you said yourself, if somebody goes in and they determine that, this builder is putting less insulation than they need to, or it's not grade 1 like it needs to be, then that's where the HERS rater steps in and says, hey, I helped you model this. To meet what I promised from that model, you're going to have to meet, grade 1 insulation. You're going to have windows that meet this. If you've traded out windows and they're less efficient but they still meet code, I need to update that model for the as-built before I submit it to the registry. The HERS rating really is just a data capturing of the energy efficiency measures that have been put onto a building. It can be low energy efficiency if it only meets code in a certain area, or it can be really high efficiency if it's, if they're doing this HERS rating based on one of those programs.
Well, we got a little less than a minute going here, but what are the 5 minimum rated features that must be looked at in order to perform the energy rating?
Sure. Yeah, we're checking on the window U values.
Well, we got a minute, so whatever you want to get in here, let's do it.
So your
insulation, your appliances.
Yes.
Go ahead. You're cutting out. We got to turn it over to NBC News, but we do appreciate it. Paulette, I'll call you tomorrow, and you give me that information, or and then I'll broadcast it on our next show. We appreciate it. Next time we're going to have you on much longer.
KCAA Loma Linda. The Legacy KCAA 1050 AM